Good afternoon. How are you today? Well, it's a little overcast, but it's pleasant, and there's not much of a breeze, and there are plenty of things to talk about. One of the ones that burns me up is the question of a woman's dominion over herself, her right to be let alone, her privacy right, and that the effort based on a religious fiction is to subordinate women to men, white men, and to claim that you care about a fecundated ovum and you hold that sacrosanct, and the woman is nothing but a carrier of a potential child, often unwanted, and dealt with in those cases by abortions. And then the people go on, oftentimes to have children later, they choose to have them, and our society is better for it. If you want to talk about a right to life, you talk about bringing children into the world that are wanted, that we want to be here, that they want to be here in the sense that they potentially will make a family. Not be abandoned at the hospital, not go in foster homes, not have psychological and physical problems. We're going to have good people. Washington Post today is supporting a bill that's on the Hill, a bill on the Hill. And this bill proposes that no state should be able to put an undue burden on a woman's right to an abortion. I haven't seen the definition of what that right is. I mean, is it 9 months? Is it 7 months? What is it? And are there exceptions in the very last period of a woman's pregnancy if her life is at risk, or we discover that she was raped? So that part of the discussion I leave for another day. But the second part of this bill that the Washington Post endorses is that people for religious reasons who would not want to help in an abortion, that's okay, they can do that. Well, my view is you're not a health provider. You should leave your job and go do something else. Because when a person walks into an emergency room or a person needs a procedure and you have the skill to do it and you are not going to do it, you got no business calling yourself a nurse or a doctor. You should leave. So the alternate bill, it provides for a closer version of Roe v. Wade and some additional things that people criticize because they say, oh, it goes too far. And I happen to think this bill is the right bill because I think that we have to assert the fact, the right of women to be let alone, to respect their privacy, to give them dominion over their own bodies, and to put to an end this thinned version of how women have been maltreated and mistreated and treated as a chattel over the years, including in America. So I think we have to deal with that. Now, there's another problem with legislation. A constitutional right is my right as a woman, say, to assert dominion over my body as a woman, even if others disagree. A right is an individual right that you can assert against the majority, the individual versus the majority when the government goes to do it, because this right is to nullify a governmental wrong. That's it. So when a statute is passed, and it's a compromise, and it involves log rolling, and giving to the religious the right to say, I'm not going to help, as the bill the Washington Post endorses says, we've lost our way. It's no longer a right. There's also the possibility the Supreme Court will look at that legislative right, not a constitutional right, and say it's not constitutional because it contradicts the case that we passed, that Alito's bill, in the sense of an opinion, was leaked, and it causes this problem. So that's one thing on my mind. Truth in government. I know. Is that some sort of oxymoron? I once called something an oxymoron. Somebody didn't know what it was. And they asked me what it was. I said, well, it's a big moron. It's a definition that might fit in some categories. The category I'm concerned about is Biden said he will pardon anybody guilty of possession of pot. Okay, that makes sense. I can support that. However, there is no person in the entire federal prison system who fits that bill. So it's a promise without any kick to it, because there isn't any person who is in jail or prison, federal jail or prison, for pot. So what should we be doing? Rewrite the script. Go back and think of this as nonviolent crime. Think of this as a drug that is mostly legal in a tension with the federal government, that for some reason or other think there's magic in saying that pot is a dangerous drug. Quite something. And I'm not going to go into the comparisons to alcohol and tobacco and all these other things that are legal drugs that they can mess you up. So who would I think presently is saying what I think should be said about those who have not been accounted for their crimes, thinking January the 6th? And one person comes up as uniformly in this category of concerns, and that's Cheney. And Cheney in the last couple of days attacked my governor, Mr. Youngkin, who is a bizarre and evil man. I'm not joking, I believe it. And she criticized him for being a Republican who would go around denying elections. An election denier, encouraging others to believe that, putting distrust in our system at a time when the democracy is at risk. Not acceptable. Where are the Democrats saying this? They kind of whisper it. They have other people say it for them. They don't stand up for our country. They are cowards. In a better world, we could just toss them out of office, but we can't this year because the Democrats are the best approximation to a way to preserve our democracy, to save it. And that's our challenge. Some people are very excited that a man, Rishi Sunak, I don't know if he was born in India, but he has made quite a path for himself in Great Britain. And he is now the Prime Minister and has been accepted by the King. And some people, even on this side of the pond, are very excited about that. But this is not something to be excited about. When you consider that not so long ago, Rishi was saying, you know, I'm going to see that some of that money goes into the wealthy suburbs and areas as well. It's not right that all of it should go to the poor people. What would you expect a man who is worth 750 million pounds to say? This guy's not our friend. We can talk to him in a dignified way, but he's not our friend. He's not the friend of most of the people that he would represent as the Prime Minister. All over the world, the property owners, the superior class, whether by color or wealth or property, dominate. And it's our business to see that when we're slicing and dicing individual rights and liberties and duties and obligations, that everybody pick up their part of the slack. So, yes, the wealthy should be contributed in taxes and other ways that they can. The middle class contributes by the work and so forth it does. And then we have transfer payments for the poorest among us, because the standard of a civilization is how we treat our own. We have to treat people better than we do. And we can't say children shouldn't have food stamps, that we shouldn't underwrite some housing. Nothing luxurious for people that otherwise are without housing. People who are hungry, food. It's just astonishing. So, what do I get out of just these smattering of problems today? Number one, we should take the description of Roe v. Wade at its last, before Alito destroyed it, and legislate that, period. No apologies. And if we can't, don't. Fight to take over the House, fight to take over the Senate, so you can pass the bill that needs to be passed and put the judges on the bench that can restore our Constitution, declaring this nonsense null and void that they passed, that Alito wrote. What about Russia? There's another thing. We had 30 well, I don't want to go into that. 30 members of Congress who wanted to tell Biden how to deal with Ukraine, and they've since taken the letter back because, hey, for one thing, nobody insulted Ukraine. And who thinks that you could sit down with Putin and agree to anything? I think Cheney has got the right line on what we should be doing. And we should welcome her leadership on that issue, even if we can't on other issues. I don't think we should concern ourselves very much with the Prime Minister of Great Britain in the sense of supporting somebody that was for Wexit and all these other things. So that's what I got to say. And it's a nice day among my cathedral of trees, as you can see. It's just gorgeous out. So until the next time, take it easy. Bye-bye.